TikTok, your time is up, my mind's made up, don't make a scene. I'll be your nuisance, your self-conscious famous magazine. I'm self-affliction, your addiction design. Just learn to love me cause you're wasting my time. I'm a son of a gun. Ain't that a motherfucker? Now that you built this up, I'll be the end you never knew. Make up for all the time I wasted putting up with you. Kick back and watch me like the edge of a storm. You're burning up and that's what's keeping you warm. I'm a son of a gun. Ain't that a motherfucker? Ain't that a motherfucker? Ain't that a motherfucker? I'm a son of a gun. Ain't that a motherfucker? I'm a son of a gun. Ain't that a motherfucker?
Whoa!
What's
Hey,
up?
everybody. Thanks for joining us back here for Van Philosophy. We've got a weird topic today, man.
A really weird topic.
Yeah, every time I did a post, I was like, it's probably the weirdest thing.
Oh, Nancy,
I think we
you
were-
don't need to put clothes on. You're fine.
No, you're fine. But we did see you. we saw it. We're not tardy. We're like right on time.
Right on time.
It was like 7. I was like, click. And we did it. Anyway, again, thanks for everybody that's tuning in. But we want to real quick let everybody know that we've got a show coming up this weekend in Anderson.
Saturday.
At Club 134. It's going to be killer. And we've also got 2 shows coming up next weekend. One being at Montrose in Somerville. And that's Friday. And then the next one on Saturday is
At the Loft in Augusta.
Loft in Augusta. Both going to be killer times. Also, a good fun fact here is the CDs are in.
Woohoo!
What? So we'll be shipping those things off to you guys like ASAP. Those of you that have let us know, though, to hold on to them and give them to you at the shows when we see you guys, we will be doing that as well. And if you haven't reached out to us, let us know because we plan on sending them off. I imagine like tomorrow we're going to be sending some of them off, right? Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so our topic today is government weather manipulation, which is really weird.
Now, technically, they call it weather modification.
Modification
Is what they officially call it.
So make sure you guys get in the chat if you got any questions about this stuff. But first off, we're gonna get into what we've been up to. So Kyle,
Man, so it's weird when you get a snowstorm, all the days blend together. I know we were talking about that. We're like, yeah, we did that yesterday, and it was like that was 5 days ago.
yeah, that was a weird
And I was
conversation.
like, no, it wasn't. It was yesterday. But I saw you when we were talking about it. I did see you yesterday, but we didn't have that conversation
Right.
that day. You know? So yeah, it was cool getting snow. It's weird how like the town goes crazy, you know, and like everyone buys milk and bread and stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. Well, it was still out this week. I went to the grocery store, and there was still like people had bought because they thought maybe Friday it was going to snow again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But,
Well, the weird thing was I was actually out of propane for the grill,
yeah.
and the last time power went out for a few days, I was like, if we had the grill, you can heat up water on it, and you can cook some stuff, and it's not too bad. So I was like, well, I'll go find, I'll take the old tank and have someone fill it up, So I went like a bunch of places.
Do they still fill them up? I'm sorry. Do they still fill them up, or is it an exchange program?
A lot of places they just do an exchange.
Okay.
So you give them the old one, and then they'll go recycle it.
Yeah.
Some places will just fill it up,
Yeah.
but it's usually just an exchange.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
So yeah, I was gonna go try to get an exchange, and went to this place, went to that place, went just a bunch of places, and finally went just to one of the gas stations that sells it. And I walked in, and they're like, "How can we help you?" And as soon as I went to say something, I saw the sign that said like, "We're out of propane."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Man, okay," So I went and sat in my car, and I was like, "Well, it'll be fine, no big deal." And then I felt this knock on my window, and there was this guy, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, I saw you in there, and I heard that you needed to exchange your tank." He's like, "I got one in the back of my truck if you want to give me your old one." And I was like, "Yeah, cool." So I went and brought it and changed it. I said, "Well, how much do you want for it?" Because he told me it was about 75% full. He's like, "It's not
Right.
totally full, but it's almost full." And I felt it, and it was. And I was like, "Well, how much do you want for it?" And he's like, "No, nothing." And I was like, "Come on, man, let me give you something. At least something. I know it's not all full, but let me give you something." He's like, "No." He's like, "You just take it. You need it." And like I was like almost fighting back tears.
Right. Yeah, those simple like gestures.
Just
of
like that
kindness.
simple thing, because like I know it. It's only like $15-20 worth of propane.
Right.
But to me, I was like, oh, like I can have coffee tomorrow if I lose power, and I can take a sponge bath or something. Like whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
I was like that. Like this is gonna get me through a few days.
Right.
And he was just like, "No, man, it's you. Don't worry about it." And like, so I was like, man, that guy was awesome.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that story, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's crazy. Like, seeing those people, like, do just, like, weird little acts of kindness like that, it reminds you, like, how important it is, like, for any of you guys, like, watching or anybody watching now or in the future, just those simple little things you can do for somebody that really touches them and helps them, even inspires you to maybe do that same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like we always, especially online, you kind of go like, man, the world seems like it's such a mean, awful place, and everyone's arguing with each other on threads and stuff.
Right.
And it reminded me that like the world's not it's not that the world isn't like that. It's just it doesn't have to be like that, because you can change someone's whole outlook for their week.
Right.
Just by a little gesture.
I always think like the world is all things. You just have to decide what you're going to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, like this week, we had snow. My power was only out for like an hour.
Yeah.
So, but my internet was out all day. So I really just took time to like sit back, reflect, hang out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any kind of cool story because I didn't really go out and about. So I chilled out, reflected on some things, thought about some things. I got some of our tax paperwork together.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through all of our statements and got all that stuff subsidized, which is a lot of fun.
It's so much fun.
I love
taxes.
I love it. But that's what I did. So but that's about it. But let's go ahead and get into the topic, man. Again, we're doing government weather manipulation. They call it
Weather modification.
Manipulation.
Sounds too sinister.
And it sounds weird, right? It sounds so bogus. It sounds so bizarre. But what is it?
Okay.
What are we talking
What
about?
I want to say is that it's real.
Yeah.
And all of the weird conspiracies that people say, they're pretty much all true.
Right.
Now, whether they're as big of a deal as people make it out to be is, subjective, I guess.
Yeah.
But we actually put the sources that we found for this topic in the description below.
We're getting all fancy.
So
if you
go ahead and
scroll
check them out. They're all very credible sources. They're
Yeah.
official sources. And I found out too, like, it's usually not a good idea to Wikipedia stuff.
Oh, no. Yeah.
But
Sometimes it is. Sometimes
I
it's
went
good.
and cross-referenced Wikipedia after I found these sources, and there actually is some pretty accurate information on
Yeah.
them. So you can, we'll give you permission to Wikipedia this.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is like governments or
it's mostly just
it's
governments.
mostly
that do
governments.
it, yeah.
But I'm sure other people like have other interests as well, like super billionaires or something. But it's where they are trying to use technology to change weather patterns, to kind of push forward rain or snow or whatnot. It's actually people doing stuff to change it. So that's what we're talking about here.
So there are a few things that are, I'm sure we'll go through the history of it and like some weird stuff that happened. But the stuff that's done now, at least in the United States, and a good bit is done in the United States, some in China, Russia, and India. And I'm sure there's probably other countries that do it too, but the United States is one of them. So one is called cloud seeding, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Well, that's like that's what we were talking about, the like chemtrails, right?
Yeah.
So
it's
everybody always refers to chemtrails. I think I saw Steve there. It's the chemtrails, yeah.
Yeah. So like chemtrails, what a lot of people think of chemtrails, like that's not real.
Yeah, that's just like the water from the engine.
That actually, what is that called? I had that.
Don't set that
written
on
down.
fire.
I won't set this on fire.
Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, it's like water being pushed out.
It's just
the
engine emissions and water.
Yeah.
And it's called contrails.
And I do believe that the seeding process kind of looks the same, doesn't it?
So what they used to do is they would use lead iodide, but lead isn't good for you. So now they use silver iodide. So it's actually they add they do.
He said doo doo.
They will seed water vapor, but a lot of times cloud seeding is actually they're trying to make the existing clouds heavier by adding metal to it. So they use silver. Yeah, heavy metal in the sky. But they use
Theo would be so
silver
proud.
iodide, and I know like it sounds weird putting metal, but silver is actually it's pretty good for you, honestly.
Right.
Like if you get like an ear infection or an eye infection.
We're not doctors. Don't listen to any of this.
No, well, I mean this is common known. Like if you go to the drugstore and get some drops for your eyes, if you have like a sty, a lot of times it'll say that it contains silver.
Right.
So like silver's been used for like antimicrobial stuff for a long time.
Always talk to your doctor.
Yeah, and obviously like they're probably going to prescribe antibiotics if that happens.
Something. Yeah.
But over the counter, if you've used it before, I've used it before. I've used colloidal silver for stuff too, and I've never had a problem with it, and it actually seemed to work.
I saw a thing where a dude had so much of that he turned blue.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
he's
with
like a Smurf dude.
So with silver iodide, there isn't any known ill effects.
Except for Smurfness.
But that actually is from colloidal
I know, I'm
colloidal
just-
silver,
I'm
which
just
which
messing
I
around.
believe is a little different. It's like
Yeah.
electronically charged silver particles.
Okay, but the chemtrail stuff, like they're putting silver into the clouds to make them heavier, to make it
To make it rain.
To make it rain. That sounds like weird.
Yeah.
Like so as long as you make them heavier,
Yeah.
it rains.
Works.
And the silver doesn't just fall out. Somehow it stays in there because it's the molecules are so small.
Well, it's like ionized. Yeah.
Right.
So like it's the same thing of like when you have colloidal silver water or you get eye drops that have it in there. Like it's not like you're getting little bits of silver. You're getting like small charged particles.
right.
That are molecularly small.
Nancy says, I think we could all use a little Smurfness.
So,
Right?
yeah,
as
so-
long as there's no Gargamel,
So
we're all good.
the Smurfness, the guy, he ingested way too much silver.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things where it's like if you eat too many apples, you get cyanide poisoning.
Right.
If you drink too much water, you can actually get a chemical sickness.
Right.
So, like, it's not going to happen. If you use those eye drops, you're not going to turn blue.
Careful. Everybody be careful.
However, the funny thing is the type of silver that they use, if you handle large quantities of it, your hands will actually turn yellow.
Yeah.
But it'll go away. It's kind of like saying like if you handle beets and then your hands turn red and it doesn't wash off right away. It's kind of the same thing.
Right.
But there hasn't been any known ill effects, but they've only been doing it for like 80 years. So
Of like
Well-
of altering certain things
of using silver iodide to
make rain.
to make rain. Yeah.
Right.
It's been done since the 60s.
Yeah, but there are also some programs, right, that are doing stuff for like snow, and they're trying to look into like trying to get it to snow, trying to get tornadoes to happen, trying to get hurricanes to happen. But as with the military, I think it's all because of like
Now
trying to
there is a little bit of misinformation floating around about that because the official statements of governments is that they're trying to prevent hurricanes and trying to prevent cyclones and prevent adverse weather effects. And the same thing is
yeah, you gotta be careful with that too, because they're also saying they're trying to prevent war.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying like, but there is no official statement that like any government is trying to
Right.
use adverse weather for warfare now.
About to say, man.
But they used to.
They did.
Yeah.
Actually, a fun story. If you guys have ever watched, was it Forrest Gump when he was in Vietnam, and like it just rained for days, big fat rain, little rain. Rain came from up underneath, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a real thing. There was a big rainstorm that went on for days and days and days, and it was actually the U.S. government seeding the clouds to make it rain, to disturb the trucks and everybody getting to where they need to go, like the supply chains and all that kind of stuff.
So yeah, that was called Operation Popeye.
Popeye.
And and it's one of the links in the description below. I can't remember exactly which one, but it's one of the links that we put in the description. But
it's not going to take you to chicken sandwiches, but it will take you to this.
The operation said that they successfully had sufficient rendering in. I'm sorry.
He writes so small. Now I can't even read it.
Sufficient in rendering vehicular routes inoperable, saturating the ground to slow enemy movement, and extending the natural monsoon season, and causing landslides. So that was the objective and what they achieved.
Right.
And that was done in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos.
Yeah, Laos. It was, I think it was 1966 whenever it happened, or was it 1967 when they did it?
I think they got approval. I think it was. I think the operation was approved in '66.
Yeah.
I think they started laying the groundwork in '64, but it went on to '72.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think all the stuff supposedly. Now these were documents that were released because of the Freedom of Information Act. So like before, when we were all like, "Oh, this is all just made up.
Yeah.
This is not real."
there was a leak.
It's because the government wasn't telling us. They had these papers.
There was a leak, and it was dismissed. It was like that's bullshit.
There was a leak back.
There was a leak. Yeah, it was during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And then everyone kind of was like, "Yeah, sure, they can manipulate the
change
weather."
the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it actually was. It was the 54th Weather Reconnaissance Squadron. And so they had a little slogan, like things that they would write on their airplanes, and it was "Make mud, not war." And they would do a lot of times daily operations, 2 or 3 times a day, trying to manipulate the weather, chemically manipulate the weather from 1967 to 1972. And they used C-130s and F-4 Phantoms to do it. So that was part of the military. There was like a group of guys. That was their job, to get in a plane and make it rain.
I'm not military savvy. I'm assuming what you just said. Those are types of planes.
They're types of airplanes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A C-130 and an F-4 Phantom are like fighter jets. Yeah.
Right. Nancy, that is crazy, right? Like, it's insane. Like, again, we're told, and we've heard these ideas, and we've like, no, that's not real. That's not a thing. And people even call you crazy, even if like you did believe it. They're like, no, you're crazy.
Well, the thing is like that's not even the craziest one. That one can be relatively explained. You can be like, yeah, they're just trying to make clouds chemically heavier so it rains.
Right.
But so anyway, there actually is it's called NMOD, and it stands for Environmental Modification Convention. It's an international convention that outlaws weather modification for warfare. So you can't fight the enemy with weather anymore.
Right. Turn on the tornadoes, and they just go in.
Legally. But what's weird is you can do it to your citizens.
Right.
You just can't use it for war.
Right.
So like there's the cloud seeding.
Man, that goes deep though, man. If you start thinking about like hurricanes that hit certain people, like certain like social groups and things, and like what was it seeded? Was it not? I don't know.
Yeah. So the technology does exist to create adverse weather because we know that happens.
Yeah.
Now the official, standing of the United States government is that they're using it to prevent adverse weather. So another idea is using that same chemical in cyclones and hurricanes to basically get them to bottom out before they hit land.
Right.
And they make annual reports of everything they do. There's only been 2 laws passed that I found about weather modding internationally, right. And one law was in 1975 that U.S. and Canada have to share information. And then the other law is that you can't use it for warfare. But otherwise, it seems like it's pretty much fair game to do whatever you want. And,
Right,
and,
yeah.
And the list of what they can do, because that doesn't seem so bad. It's like, oh, there's silver ions in the air, and that doesn't sound so bad because I have that in my eye drops.
Right. By the way, I just want to comment on this. That Nancy was saying that it feels apocalyptic. And also... Aaron comments here saying, Project Popeye is what they call me when I roll up to the strip club because I make it rain.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
That's good. But yeah, Nancy, you're right. It's like a Pandora's box. Like, what is the unintended consequences of something like this? You know, it's crazy. So what else can they do?
So again, you know, trying to prevent tropical storms is one thing that's trying to be done. Also, using heat. So one thing that is done a lot is you can just use heat on the ground level to make fog dissipate.
Right. Yeah.
So that's something that's
I do that in the bathroom.
Yeah. So like that doesn't seem like too sinister. It's like, oh yeah, like you
Right.
just try to make it warmer, like, you know, set some fires or have some type of heating elements that clears fog. Another thing that's done is that there's experiments done with pouring liquid nitrogen into the sea during a hurricane because it takes away some of the thermodynamic energy away from the hurricane.
Right.
And also, let's see, one thing that's kind of scary is it's called sooting, which is actually like releasing carbon particles to block sunlight, and hoping to kind of lower thermodynamic energy in storms.
Right.
So
Well, that's the whole thing with the global warming stuff. Like, are they doing these kinds of things now? Or do we
it
know
definitely
of?
seems like that would definitely contribute to it because it's soot in the air.
Right.
You know, it's carbon-based particles in
Right,
the
right.
air. So, and it's funny because a lot of people would argue that, you know, you're getting more adverse weather because of global warming, and you are trying to put a Band-Aid on that basically
Right,
by
it doesn't work.
adding more
Yeah.
of the problem to it.
Right.
So one of the things I found too is, so this is a list of things that I found that the United States government currently does and has to report on.
Right.
Okay, so they do cloud seeding. We talked about that. Using heat to evaporate fog.
But real quick, Kyle did mention to me earlier that they do have to report this stuff, supposedly.
Yes. And on this, on one of the sites we shared, there actually is a link on that site to all of the reports.
All of the reports. So when they do mess with it, like they're not asking anybody, right?
No.
But they do have to report it. Now, if you're like me, you're probably gonna be like, "Do they?" You know, but
Well, who's going to stop them?
yeah, supposedly they are. So
Okay, so also, so they call this solar radiation modification, which sooting is a part of that. But it says that they are allowed to use dust, gas, or aerosols to reflect solar radiation. So again, if you're trying to stop, you know, get less thermodynamic energy in a storm, you might be able to reflect sunlight instead of block it,
Right.
and hopefully cool that system down a little bit. Also, they are allowed to and do release electronically charged or radioactive particles into the atmosphere. And I didn't get a lot of information on that, but that sounds pretty scary.
it sounds scary. I mean, I know radiation isn't as as worrisome as most people think that it is. Every time you go outside, you're being radiated.
But and also on top of that too, like ionized particles, again, like in your eye drops, there's ionized silver in it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that like anything that's ionized is, you know, going to give you cancer or anything like
Right,
that. That's not
right.
an inherent fact or anything.
Yeah.
And then also artificial wind generation, using jet wash or propellers, like using kinetic energy to create
Sure.
wind. And the last one is my favorite, is they use lasers.
Yeah. Lasers.
And
All
so
right.
what I found is what I was like, I gotta know what they use lasers for, because
Yeah.
lasers are cool.
I like Steve's comment here. He's like, report-ish.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I feel about it, man.
So what they use lasers for is they try to discharge static electricity in storms. So they're basically like firing lasers at lightning bolts to try to dissipate them. And I don't exactly know how the physics works on that, because I'm not a physicist.
Yeah.
But apparently that's something that you can do, and it's something that's done.
Well, it is strange because I know, like, in today's world, like, because back, you know, you see, like, what was his name? Boop, 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 boop. Anyway, you talk about like big like laser guns, you know, like was it Buck Rogers?
I don't know.
Anyway, the big laser guns, and they're like, and they're gonna shoot something and like take it out, or like some kind of like laser missile thing. But then like nowadays, like I think of a laser and I think of like just light, like light show lasers, or like a laser pointer you like mess with your cat.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I'm sitting there like lasers, like how? But I know like there's like laser surgeries and stuff like that. So it's like the light gets so hot, or it's like because it's so dense.
It's just like it's getting condensed.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you know, like if you turn a light bulb on and you put your face up to it, you can feel that there's energy. You feel the heat from it.
Yeah.
So if you are like focusing that and focusing it, you're just directing all of that energy into a very small point.
Right.
And
Probably sound like a total moron. I'm just like, there's different kinds of lasers. Yeah. But yeah, there's different kinds.
So yeah, it's just it's how much energy there is and how much it's getting focused. There's a guy on YouTube actually that takes like old DVD players and runs them in series, and can actually make pretty powerful lasers that can like, you know, cut a sheet of paper in half and stuff like that.
Right.
I think it'd be funny if we had like a time machine and you go back to like the 50s and be like, we're all gonna have lasers in our pockets, and be like, but they're not gonna do anything. You're just gonna play with cats.
Food cats. That's all it is. But Nancy, speaking of apocalyptic, I have like a story here that I found. Actually, somebody told me about it the other day, and then I went and like looked it up to make sure everything was legit. But I don't know if you guys heard about this or not. But it rained fish in Texas. It rained fish on let me see here, on January 4th this year.
This year
in Texas.
Fish.
It rained fish.
That requires a little more explanation, I think.
So it rained and fish came out of the sky. Mm-hmm. What the way they try to explain it is that it was probably caused from some sort of tornadic water spout that may have picked up a whole. I mean, there's a lot of fish, man. Like there's like videos you can like type it in. Raining fish
Hallelujah.
in Texas, and you can find some videos on it where they show some people, like it's a smaller town, and they're like showing the fish. Like, well, this is really weird. There's this to commentate on one of the videos I watched. There's this woman, and they went to her, you know, and they're like talking about it's raining fish, and she's like, you can see them out there, they shine, and it like made me think of like
The Shining.
like The Shining. Yeah,
I just watched that the other day.
It's like, oh, they shine out there. But there's like fish that came out. So they supposedly, what happened was like a tornadic water spout type thing picks the fish up, holds them in the cloud, and then whenever it rains, then they come out. And this is a real thing that happens actually more often than you'd think that it does. It actually rained frogs June 7th in 2005 northwest Serbia. So
Holy shit.
and that's the real stuff. Like if you're talking about like apocalypse, you're referring to like
That's like
the
some
Bible or
that's
something.
like some biblical stuff.
That's some biblical stuff. So it was like raining frogs. But that's where the actual saying "raining cats and dogs" is a real thing. It's not that it actually rains cats and dogs. I don't think there's anything that's going to pick up cats and dogs. But it's what's the name of it? I didn't write it down. But it's some kind of like animal something. But it rains animals.
That's insane.
So like fish, and freaking like frogs. I guess it's like all like amphibians,
I remember
which doesn't make sense. They kind of
I remember when I was
couldn't it be
younger.
hold on. Couldn't it
Go
be
ahead.
rats? Why is it just frogs and fish? But I guess because they're in the water.
It's in the water.
But frogs aren't in like big. I
But
don't
they're
know.
amphibious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because
So
it has
they're
to be
in the water.
carried by the water.
Yeah, because they can breathe water and air.
I need to look that one up. I should have done that. So bad on me for like not looking up if like mammals like rain from the sky or anything. But isn't that weird?
It is weird. It's funny. I met this guy a long time ago, and he like made it his life's work to try to like find weird stories in the Bible and find like other occurrences.
Oh right.
And so it's like the burning bush. Like there actually is a bush in the Middle East that will catch fire, and it happens every day. So it's
Right.
not like a crazy thing.
Right.
I
like it
so
here
that's
that-
kind of weird. It's like, oh, so it actually does rain frogs, and that story actually isn't like this crazy story.
No, it's not
just
crazy.
like, oh yeah, it rains frogs.
It rains
sometimes.
frogs.
Yeah.
It's actually more common. Like everything I read about it, it says it's more common than you actually realize. I like Nancy here is like Sharknado, and it's like so you're saying Sharknado is possible. I think it
It
is.
seems like it.
It seems like it's actually possible. That might be based on some kind of fact.
It's just very exaggerated.
Very exaggerated. Now, if like these frogs or fish had like ravenous, teeth, and then I never watched
I don't know,
Sharknado.
man.
I never watched
I mean,
Sharknado.
like fish can cut you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the gills are sharp. Depends on what
Right.
kind of fish it is.
Right.
But like
a
lot,
shark fish.
Well, and a lot of fish have teeth. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, I wonder how many people have died
Yeah.
from raining fish. There's got to be one in history.
I'm sure. Well, imagine like you're just standing out there and a big old fish comes and whacks you in
Comes
the head.
slices you with a sharp fin.
Well, how fast is that fish falling from the sky?
133 miles per hour.
Yeah. There has to be death by
Free fall.
Death by fish. That has to be a thing. Let's see here. Fishnado, not a worthy sequel. No, but that's the thing, man. Like, I thought these things were not real. Like, even like when one of my friends told me about it this week, was like, "Hey, man, it rained fish in Texas this month," and I was like, "What?" I was like, "We're doing a vlog. I think kind of talking about weather. That'd be a great time to bring something like that up." But like, I literally was in disbelief. I was like, "No, okay, sure."
Well, it's
like-
funny. Texas is one of the places where in the United States, that's like where the most cloud seeding is done because it's so dry. Most current cloud...
Is that true?
Yes, it is. Because most cloud seeding operations are done in dry regions to try to generate rain.
Right.
So it's going to be, drier regions in China, drier regions in India, and drier regions in the United States. And a lot of the testing for when the technology was being developed in the early 60s was done in Texas.
Right.
But I feel like a lot of testing is just done in Texas anyway.
Yeah.
For anything,
So maybe that's a side effect.
Maybe it is. So that
If you overseed, that's the side effect we found. You're gonna have raining fish.
y'all need to like help us research that and and find out like why did it rain fish?
Right.
Was it something like
I told you that
humans did?
they said it was. They explained it as it was a water spout.
Yeah, but what caused the water spout?
I'm assuming nobody saw the water
Itsy
spout.
bitsy fish, it went up the
Yeah.
water spout.
It rained meat in Kentucky in the 1800s.
We need more information on that.
Can you give us some more information on that?
Please
Aaron?
expound on that.
Please, because like,
I think I saw that on like an episode of Lore one time.
right? Yeah, dude.
Tell us more about
I think
that.
I saw that in my nightmares one time.
It's raining meat.
Imagine. Yeah, I think it's because it's worded like that too. It's raining meat.
So one other thing that I found, and it's one of the sources in the description, is the government admitted in 1964 that they had the capability for weather manipulation. So this was a few years before Operation Popeye.
Think about that. 1964.
Yeah.
Like 1964, they knew how to manipulate weather, and here we are. It's 2021, and look at what we're doing.
2022 now.
2022. Sorry, and look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
But we knew how to manipulate weather.
So they said that, and the reason for it is, to me, is what sounds the most sinister out of all of this.
Okay.
I feel like most of everything we've talked about can be explained almost on a humanitarian level. Like we're trying to stop storms, and we're trying to win this war without bullets. We're
Yeah.
trying to win it with rain and make the ground so muddy that everyone just wants to go home. Like that doesn't sound like a terribly sinister thing.
Right.
But this sounded a little weird. It said, weather manipulation is being attempted to influence economic activities and social structure because human activity is the most predictable in relationship to weather. No other aspect of the environment has as many pervasive relations to the pattern of human activity on the globe.
Yeah.
So basically they were saying, if we want to control people, we need to control the weather, because everyone will make decisions on the weather. Say, oh, I'm not going to go out because it's raining, or I'm going to cancel my plans because of this, or oh, it's getting cold, so we need to go buy this, or oh, it's going to be really hot, so we need to go buy this. And so,
Well, like look at like what we were just talking about earlier and what we've been up to. I mean, look at there was a snowstorm going to come. Not forced, but encouraged everyone to go and buy everything out of the grocery store. Consume. Probably bought way more than you needed. It probably ended up taking away from some people that probably needed it more than you. But every time it happens, like I said, even earlier this week, because we thought it might have been snowing again this Friday, which just sucks. We have that show coming up. But it looks like it's not going to. But I was just there yesterday, and it was empty. I mean, I'm talking about literally like one package of lunch meat. You know what I mean? Like in the lunch meat section, there's like one. But you know what's also funny is vegetables. They're all there.
All the veggies are fine.
You can buy whatever you want. So like for me personally, I was like, oh great, got what I need. You know, but yeah, not lunch meat, man.
Yeah, but I thought it was crazy that like there was an official publication that came out and they're like, yeah, we're trying to control people. Hold
on real quick. I think we've got a little bit of
we got some info.
Yeah, according to a series of records, large hunks. I'm guessing is it hunks?
Large hunks.
Large hunks.
It's raining.
Falling from the sky.
Hallelujah.
But large chunks of flesh fell from the sky over Bath County, Kentucky, for a period of about 7 minutes on March 3rd, 1876.
Wow.
All right. It was called the Kentucky Meat Shower. Huh. Like imagine you're inside. Right? You see her. Like large things hitting your house.
You're like, I wonder what's going on.
And then you go outside.
And it's hunks of meat.
And it's freaking hunks of meat falling out of the sky. What caused that?
Now, I don't know, were airplanes invented at that time? Let's look that up.
We're going to look that up. Some theories include it was a prank, vulture vomit, or some weird sort of meat-like algae. I always want to say like algae, but I don't know it's algae.
The airplane invention date was 1903.
1903, so no.
It was before that. What about like blimps though?
Do you have like a little search you can do for Kentucky meat shower?
Yeah, well,
Kentucky meat shower. Because Aaron's saying here that the theories is that it might have been a prank. But people always say it's a prank. A vulture vomit or some sort of weird meat-like algae. The algae thing kind of makes sense because we were just talking about like fish and things that are in water that can be picked up by these water spouts.
Well, and also the first airship was invented in 1852.
Okay.
So it could have been feasible that it, could have been like a blimp or a hot air balloon or something.
But I believe, now let me scroll back up here. She was saying, let's see, how long did it last for? You know how long it lasts for? Go ahead and comment it so I can see it.
I thought it said 7 minutes. I thought she said.
Let's see here.
Somewhere in the comments. I seem to remember that. Maybe I'm just having weird deja vu or something, but
maybe. She might have even said it. It smelled. She said it smelled, which I imagine it smelled really bad.
I would imagine if you had a big old blimp and you were, really rich and trying to pull a prank. You're having a party, frying up some steaks up high, and you go, "Oh, this meat is rotten. What do we do?" And we're like, "Well, just drop it."
I don't think people in the hanging out on a blimp.
And then they're like, "Hey, man,
7 minutes." But see, it rained for 7 minutes. Meat. And I don't think in a blimp you can make it rain meat for 7 minutes.
Depends how much meat you have.
Again,
you're just throwing them out, and you're like, "Hey, you find another one? Yeah, man, throw another one out."
But that's just throwing one out. You know what I mean? Come on.
That's a bunch of them.
If it like covered a large area. But
they had a big blimp.
The whole algae thing makes sense because like if it was, and it would have smelled pretty bad, I assume, because that's something that's in the water that one of these water spouts could have picked up. Mm-hmm. And it being like so long ago, that we're not gonna have like, I don't think we'll have photos. Or anything.
What if it was like, you know how you have like geysers.
Right.
And things, like out in Yellowstone. What if there was like some type of natural geyser that was underneath a cemetery?
Right.
And it erupted, and then just flung out like meat and flesh and body parts.
Well, most meat isn't going to be left over though in a cemetery.
No, but I mean, unless it was somewhat recent.
Nor would it smell. I don't think.
I imagine it would.
Because most are full of the older bodies that don't have. I know this sounds pretty morbid, you guys. So But I believe like they take everything out. They take all the blood and all those kind of things out. They pump it full of other chemicals that make it to where it doesn't.
They use formaldehyde now, but
and all that
in
stuff.
what year was it? 1876.
Yeah.
Let's look that up.
And honestly, though, I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't think that there's an unknown geyser in Kentucky that would shoot out meat for 7 minutes that rained over an entire town.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, that's so bizarre. Oh, I haven't over the ocean. Does the tornado activity only happen over an ocean, though? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Embalming was around in 1876.
It was disgusting, Steve, by the way. Kyle's gross. You can't help it.
I'm gross. I didn't bring this up.
Yeah. No, but yeah, it is, like Nancy's saying, it's just wow. Like, all this stuff is like these big weather events that you don't think is real, but these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like, again, I'm a little upset I never saw it, like raining fish or raining frogs. I mean, I know that sounds kind of silly, but like, imagine if you were the one that saw it. Like, it's like one of those like one in a lifetime things.
And you'd never heard about it.
Never heard about it before. And which makes you go back to like some of those biblical stories and be like, maybe like they saw it raining frogs and they wrote a story about it raining frogs. Because it's a real thing. It's not like some kind of like totally out of this world thing. It sounds like it.
Yeah, but it's not something that happens all the time.
Yeah, it's like a real thing. Anyway, okay, so the government, this is still ongoing stuff.
Yes, it just can't be used for military application.
Can't be used for military application.
Legally. Yeah.
And I'm doing that. Which we just got demonetized. I'm sorry.
They're watching us.
They're watching. I'm sorry. Okay, and it's still going on. And what are you guys' thoughts? Let us know. Like, what do you think? What would be the long-term effects of this kind of stuff? What would be the short-term effects? Maybe raining frogs, raining fish. That could be a short-term effect. Are you okay with it? Are you okay that people are messing with the weather?
I tend to think that the raining frogs and raining fish is unrelated.
Yeah.
I want to say that is probably something else.
I'm sure.
We need to like do another vlog just on that.
I'm sure.
What do you think about it?
You know, I don't know. Every time we turn on a fan, are we messing with the natural flow of things? I think as being human, there is a certain natural state to where we coexist with these cycles and actions of the earth. Day to night, live to die, like these are natural cycles. Now, if we go effing with that, what happens? I don't know. Are we really effing with it if we're able to do so? If that's what we are we created to manipulate things like that? That goes into anything that kind of messes with the natural order of things.
Is a beaver messing with nature when it makes a dam?
When it makes a dam and it like maybe it can ruin some like ruin some habitats and all kinds of stuff if a beaver builds a dam in the wrong spot or something, and they don't really think about it. But that's a natural thing.
Well, and termites come in and
destroy
stuff,
destroy
you know what I
things.
mean? Like,
just it's the question, you know, like if we're trying to do it for good and trying to protect us, it's also like the asteroid that comes and tries to come hit us. Is it okay that we knock it out of the way?
Yeah.
Or should we just let it hit us? Which one? You know? So I kind of lean on the side as like, as long as we're trying to do it for the right reasons, like we don't want another like, what was it? Hurricane Katrina, the one that like wrecked Louisiana, like super hardcore.
Yeah. Well, and there was a major study. I think it started in 2005, and I think it was because that was so devastating that they started using. They're like, well, if we can make it rain, can we make it stop raining?
Right.
And I think that was like there was a big push because a lot of this stuff that they do now like hasn't been done since the 60s. It's been done since the early 2000s.
Right.
And that very well may be where they go, yeah, like that thing with silver iodide that we did in the 60s, like let's see if we can, you know, do some good with that.
Right. Now, and that's what we hope too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, without even saying, and I know you're thinking it out there, most of the time there's some kind of like ill intent also that kind of drives stuff. That drives the economy. As much as we don't want to think about
it's
it.
greed.
Yeah, war and greed. And all these things drive wars. They drive everything. They drive us to do all kinds of weird, crazy stuff. Like even manipulating the weather. The first thing they're gonna think is like, how can we weaponize that? You know. But there's gonna be it's like we were just talking about earlier. Kind of comes back to the swing back is that the world and the universe is all things. Bad, evil, good. It depends on what we want to focus on. And if we all individually choose to do like the positive thing, to think of the positive thing in whatever we're doing in our life, then we're going to be just fine. Now, if people that are doing the weather thing happen to be like, I'm going to choose the bad thing and just do all this, you know, I'm not a weather guy. I have no idea. It's too bad.
I think like with all technology is like bad people will do bad things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it goes with anything. I mean, like you know, even with that incident I had with propane, like, you know, that guy maybe could have built a bomb with it instead of giving it to me so I could, you know, heat up some water if I lost power. You know, like there's always bad things you can do. You know, as an individual even become more powerful and learn more things.
Right.
But I think you can choose to do good things with those things.
Right.
And I'm kind of the mind that we're all people. Like whether you have a bunch of power or you don't have any power at all, like you're a person and you think like a person does. You're worried about your own survival. You want to take care of the people you love. You want to keep the bad people away.
I couldn't help but think of like He-Man when you're talking about power. I'm like, I have the power.
Yeah. So I tend to think, you know, a lot of times there's this government conspiracy, and it's like, you know, there might be, and I'm sure like if you get enough power, you'll probably be corrupted by it. But at the same time, I like to think that everyone in the government there's a person there that wakes up and goes, well, what do I need to do today? You know, who do I need to protect? What do I need to watch out for?
And it's usually make money.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's make money.
Let's make money.
You know, and like and we're all that way. You know what I mean? You know, at least you need to provide for yourself.
Yeah, provide.
If you don't, you know, if you can find a way to provide yourself without making money, if you're like subsisting off, you know, you got some land and you got a garden and animals and stuff, and you don't need money, then that's awesome.
Right. Let's see here. Steve says, I don't think we can possibly know the long-term or short-term effects of messing with Mother Nature. Yeah, true. It's like you kind of have to like wait and see. You know, it's that whole thing. I mean, like, what have we done thus far with like, you know, the industrial movement or any of those things? Anything that like kind of comes into that. Things for good go wrong. That's also true. That's what Nancy here says.
You know, there's also we were gonna maybe talk about this on another blog because we were talking about like maybe we'll do an aliens vlog. There was some story. It was one guy. He said he saw some aliens. He was like a fighter pilot, and he wrote a book. And he said that the aliens told him that everything you're doing is fine until you start making stuff that doesn't exist, and then it's a problem. So I kind of tend to think too that like we're taking tools that exist and we're using it to manipulate things. So it's like you take silver and you can make it rain. But when you start making chemicals that don't exist in the natural world, like you make plutonium out of because plutonium doesn't naturally exist. It's a man-made element.
Well, I would argue with that everything exists.
Yeah.
That we could touch or see.
Yeah,
We
but
can't
something
create
that something
you
that,
can always say that argument works.
But I'm saying like something that you weren't you didn't wake up and find. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah, because even something like a virtual something, it still exists in zeros and ones. Mm-hmm. You know.
Well, and I guess too, you know, I was thinking about this today. Is if you see a fire, like 99% of the time, a human made that fire.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, I mean, like maybe there's a volcano.
There's a bunch of wildfires that happen all the time in California.
But arguably, a lot of times it starts with a kid playing with matches, or it's because of human activity, of like human irrigation, taking water out of a place where it naturally exists and using it for consumption. That's there's a lot of arguments I know right now talking about like why wildfires in the United States exist is because of unnatural human irrigation. But that's probably another topic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man changing things, and making nature act accordingly. Nancy also says, I don't like upsetting the balance. I totally get that. Well, I think it's also becomes kind of scary, you know, because we know this is how it works. So why mess with it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it ain't broke, you know, why you gotta fix it? Trust me, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I like that. Also, Aaron says here that I don't think the government made meat rain. Just an interesting weather phenomenon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the government made meat rain. I think that it's probably the algae thing that happened with that story. I'll have to look into it more after this for sure. I think that was an interesting topic, man.
Yeah.
That was super cool. Thank you guys for joining in with us on that one, man. 'Cause we were sitting trying to think about ideas, and we just kind of like came up with this one, and it was like,
let's do that one. That sounds cool.
Yeah. It's weird, man. It's weird stuff. It's definitely more along like the realm of stuff that we would actually talk about in the van. We just look up some weird
Google
stuff.
that. I've heard about that.
But real quick, we would like to remind everybody that we've got merch available over there on storefrontier.com/Roshambeaux. It says all sizes guaranteed. That is a lie. Kyle still has not made me a new thing. He's a terrible person. But most sizes are actually back in stock right now. Every design comes in different cuts, different types of t-shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve, v-neck, normal neck, zip-up hoodies, pullover hoodies, all kinds of cool stuff.
And you're going to have to click the link to find out what I'm lying about.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to click it.
Go do it. And then call me out next week.
Call him out. Holla at him.
And then maybe I actually will.
What's wrong with you? But go check that stuff out. We noticed that a few of you guys made in some orders in the past couple weeks. Thank you guys so much. It really helps out. It goes a long way. We can't wait to see you in said garments. But we would like to take a second real quick. This is a new thing we're trying out. Over on our Facebook group on the Rosham fan, we posted asking like what you guys want us to talk about. It ended up being some questions from our dude Steve B here in the chat. And he asked a few questions, so I figured we would try this thing out. And I'm going to ask you a question, Kyle.
Okay.
Okay. What instruments do you know how to play?
Instruments that I know how to play.
Yeah.
Instruments that I could play confidently, at least like on a professional level, I guess. Is what you mean?
Sure.
Okay. So I can play piano and guitar and bass. And I feel pretty good about those. I can play mandolin a little bit, but I'm not super confident with
I
it.
wouldn't trust you to play it.
But I can make some stuff sound good on it. You know?
Right. Do you have a mandolin at home?
I don't have one at home. But anytime someone has one, I remember the tuning structure, I know it's like
Upside down.
Well, it might be upside down, but I know like the frets, like you don't feel it in fives, you feel it in sevens. Or sixes. I don't know. I have to like pick one up to figure it out.
So you don't even know.
It's guitar like, but it's a little bit different. But you can kind of get into a groove with it, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, and what are some that you wish to learn? Like which one? Like what instrument out there where you like? I want to learn how to play an instrument.
I'd like to learn how to play. I don't know. I played. I think it would be cool to be able to do like some brass stuff. I played trumpet in middle school and I never got very good at it. But I think it would be cool to learn like band instrument stuff.
Right.
I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like we could maybe utilize some of that.
Right. Sure.
What about you? What instruments can you play?
I can play the kazoo. I can play the skin flute.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Okay. I do play a Native American flute, which is awesome. I love that thing. Play drums. Obviously, I play guitar. Play bass. I'm not confident with my piano skills because I don't know. I wasn't like taught the way you were. I'll be like, these notes sound good, and I can write something and then play it. But I couldn't be like, here. Somebody be like, here, play this. I'd be like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what these notes are. You know what I mean? Also, the banjo.
The banjo.
The banjo.
Yes, I can play banjo a little bit.
That's one of those go-tos.
Yeah.
It's actually hanging on the wall right over there. It's a whole thing. Now, as far as instruments that I would want to learn how to play, what's that one? The big old thing where you turn it with the crank. We talked about it one time.
Oh, like the monkey on a pirate ship plays?
No.
Organ grinder?
No, it's not an organ grinder. Do you guys remember the instrument I'm talking about?
With a crank on it?
He has a crank, it was stringed. It's like Celtic music.
Huh.
Nancy, the Indian flute is awesome. It's so relaxing. I try to play it every day, honestly. I do like a meditation thing for like 30 minutes, and I play my flute.
There.
The hurdy-gurdy. That's what it is. The hurdy-gurdy. So look up some videos for this thing. I would love to learn how to play one. They're really weird.
They're
also violin. I think I'd like to play violin one.
Violin would be cool. It's hard to make a violin sound good.
It's very hard. You're just like...
Yeah, if you, like... Normally, 9 times out of 10 when someone pulls out a violin, I kind of cringe to myself and go like, oh,
Wait.
God, no,
And then-
please don't. But then,
Yeah.
but when someone can really play it well, it's one of the most impressive things.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so hard. At least for me, it's
Well, it's like our
so
friend,
hard to play.
Jeff, man. He can just kill it.
Yeah.
Kills it.
He's on some
Here you
other
go.
level. Just like, yeah, just picks it up and it sounds perfect.
Here you go. He's crazy.
It's a Japanese instrument, and it's almost like a steel drum,
Yeah.
but you play it with your hands, and it almost looks like a big turtle,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
and it kind of makes like almost like an udu sound,
Yeah.
and those seem pretty cool.
Yeah. You know, Nancy was here mentioned if I ever thought about making meditation or sleep songs. I actually have. I thought about it. Like doing like where like a nice big storm comes through and record the rain actually, and then record that. Cause I sleep to like Indian flute on rainstorms all the time. So it'd be kind of cool. Maybe we could do that one day.
Yeah.
You could help me like track everything, put it all together.
Well, I usually get some pretty good rain sounds at my house.
Yeah.
I've been considering that every time it rains, be like, just go outside.
You have a
Go
metal
look for
roof,
them.
don't you?
Yeah.
So you
I have a
actually
metal-
get the real like pitter patter.
I can get metal roof pitter patter, but
Yeah.
it is nice just going out because of all the trees and stuff, hearing like rain and trees, and there's a creek too.
Yeah, the trees talk.
They do talk.
Yeah, you can hear them.
You know what I was thinking?
Swaying
Do you
in the
know?
wind.
Do you know why? You never like. How does it feel to sit underneath a willow tree?
I mean, sitting underneath any tree sounds nice.
Yeah. To me, sitting under a willow tree, like, always felt really, really good.
Yeah.
And it was different from any other tree, and I didn't really know
Do you have
why.
willows?
I don't have willows, but I had them growing up.
Okay, I was about to say I never saw.
But
willows
yeah, I don't
in
have
the
any
house.
willows at my house.
That'd be
but,
cool.
but yeah, growing up they were around, and I realized it is. And I remember I just thought of it. I wrote it down. It is acetylsalicylic acid is in willow trees, and it's actually like ridiculously concentrated.
Yeah.
And acetylsalicylic acid is the main ingredient in aspirin.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like. To me, at least, that's the explanation of like why it feels so good to sit underneath a willow tree is because that tree is medicine.
Yeah. What's the whole thing too? I think it's like one of those remedy things. If you have a headache, you chew on some willow bark.
The
That kind of
bark,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, like that's what aspirin is. It's acetylsalicylic acid.
I think the difference between a violin and a fiddle, Steve, I think a fiddle is something that's played with bluegrass music, and a violin is more rock or orchestral.
Yeah, I think
it's the same instrument, though.
Yeah, violin is the instrument. Fiddle is the technique.
I think that's the whole thing is that it's kind of like pecans, right? You have a pecan tree, you have pecans, you can eat pecans, but when you put them in a pie, they are now pecans.
Yeah. It's not a pecan pie.
It's not a pecan
that
pie.
Sounds too weird.
That's silly.
It's a pecan pie.
It's a pecan pie. It's just like if you play a violin in a bluegrass group, you actually play the fiddle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys sleep with the stuff with the Native American flute too. See, it's so feels so good. Remember, I was always pressuring like in the van. We go to sleep, we're like, put this on. Put it on. It's so good. So good. Let's see here, and the shape. of the bridge is different. The shape of the bridge is different. Is it different?
Well, I think there might be differences.
Do they alter the bridges?
There might be, I'm sure, a difference between like a folk violin and a classical violin.
Yeah.
Just like, it's like guitars. It's like there's different, Gibsons have the Tune-o-matic, but you can get a Bigsby.
Well, or like the old Gibson I have has that wooden bridge.
Yeah. So I'm sure like, depending on style, I'm sure.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Well, I hope that answer is good for you guys. So
get in the Roshambeaux fam.
Yeah.
If you're on Facebook.
Yeah.
And come talk to us and tell us what we need to do next.
Ask questions. Say hello. Tell Kyle he's a jerk.
Huge jerk.
For being so jerky all the time. Tell me things
I just need this.
No.
I just need this. This is all I need. And this.
And this.
And this. Remember that movie, The Jerk?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like Catan and Catan and Caton. It's whichever. But again, we would like to thank everybody over there on Patreon. You guys are the reason we're able to continue to do these things, and the reason why we're able to make these cool music videos every month, which we did decide on. The next cover is in production. We'll be getting that stuff together soon. We have these shows coming up, so we're going to be a little bit on time, but we're going to be getting it out to you guys. It's in the works. So if you guys are in Patreon, thank you so much. We love you guys incredibly, incredibly mucho.
And the next one's coming soon.
And the next one's coming soon. We just posted our recent one a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks. I think it's a week. But of the Elvis song, A Little Less Conversation. But if you're not in there, go check it out. We've got little tiers here for everybody, a little something for everybody. If you guys want backstage information stuff, backstage pictures, like we share a lot of stuff of like when we're working on things, pictures of our gear, how we're doing stuff, how we operate. And you can also just do the $5 a month to get in on the monthly request, see all the videos, but you have a catalog of these videos.
There's a bunch of videos. They're normally, Patreon's usually about 6 months ahead of everything we do.
Yeah.
And then there's also just ones that aren't ever going to be released.
Never going to be released.
They're just only going to stay on Patreon.
Right. Not only that, but some of our previous live streams, you can go back and rewatch them on Patreon as well. And if you're just like, I can't do that, but for as little as $1 a month, we give you weekly shout outs in our blogs. And you have early access to merch and music and everything. So everybody in that, they were able to get these CDs and pick them up before anybody even knew about them. But go check it out. We really appreciate it. You guys rule.
Yeah.
Bam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, little boys. Thank you. But yeah, so that's going to do it for us. What's our thoughts? What's our final wrap up on this, man? It's real.
It is real.
It's bizarre.
And you know what? And now that you know, how is your life different?
I still feel like I have no control over anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for 80 years.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a big deal, but
And also, it kind of puts insight. When someone says, hey, man, what about this thing, this idea of something? Maybe not just dismiss it. There's probably a reason that they're thinking that. There's probably, information and facts that the evidence that they're using to base those opinions. No matter how outlandish it might sound, I mean, and we kind of like demonize the word conspiracy. If you actually look up what conspiracy means, it's not this fictional thing. It's a real thing. It's a conspiracy, right? So don't just like push that stuff to it. Maybe think about it if you're interested, or don't. You could not care. That's also cool too. Yeah. Sometimes I don't want to hear it, but anything that comes up. I mean, shit, they pushed the JFK papers back. How many more years?
I don't know how many years, but I did see that. Yeah.
They pushed them back because they don't want to release the JFK papers. They don't want to release all the kinds of things about different schmackschmeens and schmoschmied and
are you like trying to, what was it, there's
so
we're gonna go real soon
stuff.
but like wasn't there some document that was released like last year and then you're like you can read it and it's just all blacked
it's
out.
all blacked
like
out.
All of it,
yeah,
and then there's like you can see like, oh, there's a sentence and it's blacked out.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff. Don't dismiss it. Listen to your friends. Love each other. Be good to one another.
And it's good to want to know the truth.
And it's good to want to know the truth. So thank you guys for joining us here while we talk about weird stuff. We really appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and be in there. Or dislike. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike button.
Yeah.
Tell us you don't like it. And be like, I would like this better.
Yeah, just leave us a comment of why you disliked it.
Yeah, don't be like hidden dislike. Be like, I dislike this, but because.
And this is my address.
This is my address. This is where you can find me. Do that. But no, for real. Thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, comment if you want to.
And tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Share this thing around. Come out to a show. Go get the new record. The new CDs are in. Hard copies are going out. Super pumped. But until we see you guys again, we love you guys. Thank you for being here. If you don't live in a van, you can't be a van life channel.
Hey man,
That's true. We lived in a van
we live in a van
13 years.
I was gonna say, like, there were some years where I felt like I lived in a van way more often than I lived in my house.
Right.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, man. But what's the reason we're doing this, Kyle?
We started doing this because we would get done with a show late at night and we would look at where we were going to next, and it would be like hours away and you're tired.
Yeah.
And we're like, we got to get there because the hotel's booked, or we got to be at the next venue at this time. So we would just have to come up with random topics to keep ourselves awake.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a recreation of those nights.
Yeah, try to keep ourselves awake, stay on the road, man. But until next Thursday, guys, stay safe, stay warm, stay cool. We love you.